if you're able to have good statistics, reliable data on CO2 emissions and on greenhouse gas emissions, that is more or less undisputable. And these are the ones that have to go down, and not just stable or slightly up or slightly down, but down by 80 to 100% in the next 50 years or so. And time is a bit delusive here, because the clock has been ticking for almost 30 years now. So if we keep looking at the longer term and keep on planning as if between 2040 and 2050 things will fall in place, that would be a bad mistake. So CO2 emissions and greenhouse gas emissions are perfect examples. I think CO2 or greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere is another very good one. And then in the energy field, it seems to me that still percentages of our energy demand, primary energy that is supplied through renewables, so that would be sun, wind, bio-based, is also a very helpful one. The two together will demonstrate how we move away from fossil fuel and how we move away from greenhouse gas emissions.
It really depends on your goals and what you want to measure. So obviously in the Paris Agreement, CO2 is proposed as a measure. And I think that's a very important one, but it doesn't address a lot of other climate emissions or environmental problems. So you might argue from an environmental perspective we needed much more indicators than only CO2, but typically those will be emission indicators. If we say we want to have we need the energy transition also to lead to radically lower demand of energy, then the total end use, the final use of energy would be a good indicator. In policy terms, Europe has goals of in terms of a percentage of renewables. So a lot of policymakers are using that as a goal. But as long as the total volume of use is growing, you might increase renewables in absolute terms, but as a percentage, a relative percentage of the whole, it's not increasing. But you also might look at ownership. So in Germany, for example, within 10 years, the ownership balance shifted where before 80-90% of the energy production was owned by bigger corporations or the state. Now more than 50% is owned by cooperatives and regions. So the ownership of production shifted. So in terms of democracy or ownership, that can also be an indicator. If you ask me, I think total energy use should go down and the amount of fossil input should go down. So those for me are the two main indicators.
The one thing that's important about measurements is what are the top-down measurements, in terms of national level or European level, etc., to measure energy transition. And then you can count how the climate action plans get implemented. You can count the number of additional renewable energy plants. You can, you can count you can measure the development towards e-mobility, etc. But I think what is equally important is to look at those things that probably sometimes are being overlooked, and that is finding measurements or metrics on energy transition that really empower people. So the issue that is evenly important in measuring the energy transition is creating the possibility for the citizen to see how much do I take part in that energy transition. Like, imagine that every citizen would be able to have a complete overview of your own energy consumption and your energy production. And that will be encouraged. That is quite an interesting overlooked measurement, because you could connect these kind of contributions and could use them as a bottom-up measurement. So I think that is very, very interesting. You need to look at top-down measurements in terms of facts and figures, but you also need to look into bottom-up measurements.